So this is another thing that comes up with patients pretty often too, again, around like the food fear and the food reintroduction stuff, is, the quote that I think is attributed to Einstein, but the internet does not do well with attributing quotes to the right people. But I think it might be an Einstein quote, maybe. I see it on memes on social media all the time. But that quote where it's like, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. I would not necessarily say that's the definition of insanity, but there's other things that are insane beyond just that. But that quote and that saying. So sometimes I bring that up because people are, they have this mental hurdle and this fear because they're like, every other time I tried to reintroduce, it didn't go well and I'm really terrified of it. And I usually make the point, if all of the variables were exactly the same and you were trying to reintroduce the food and you were expecting a different result, then that would be possibly kind of silly, right? But the variables are no longer the same because you're working with me and we're doing new things, right? Like, I have you on and then, we'll talk about the protocol, like, hey, we now understand X, Y, and Z because of your test results, and we have you doing X, Y, and Z based on that, and you're already feeling X amount better. And, it's like, I have to sometimes paint the picture of how you feel like it's the same. Because in our brains, we only perceive our body as our body. And it's very easy to get stuck in like, well, I have tried it before, and therefore if I try it again, the variables are the same. It's still me, so it's going to go horribly. But it's like, your situation's not the same. You are taking 3 new supplements and exercising for the first time in years, and you're chewing your food better, and like listening to my amazing podcast with Amy, and like, there's all this stuff that has changed now. So you don't have to worry about that Einstein quote. You don't have to worry about that definition of insanity stuff because you're not doing the same thing anymore. It's totally different.
Right.
So sometimes even just that, when I explain that, people will be like, oh, yeah, okay. Even if you just introduce like a new antimicrobial, like, hell, even that's something that's a different variable, and that's changed it enough that you can expect a different result, possibly. Even if you add in one new thing, or if you've introduced one new food, or if you've introduced one new habit, or you've decided to like chew your food adequately for the first time in your life, like even one change changes enough stuff that now the variables are no longer the same, and you could be reasonably you can feel not silly to expect a totally different result. And you can it's like I give you permission to have that optimism because now things are different, right? So
no, I think that's there's a couple things that came to mind when you were talking about that. I'm glad you were bringing that up. I think, also I tend to remind my clients, like, is low FODMAP or whatever diet you're following really working? Like, it isn't really providing you awesome relief, like amazing relief.
Yeah. Do you feel normal?
Right. Right. Oh, yeah. And I think thinking that diet's going to get you there is not necessarily the best frame of mind, as we've discussed. And I also think you brought up something really important too, that, diet isn't the only thing that's going to help symptoms or create symptoms. So a lot of times I'll talk to people too and like almost get them wondering like, okay, you had this reaction to a food. And a lot of times it's like, sometimes I react to this food and sometimes I don't. And it's like, well, there's other variables there. Maybe it's not the food that's creating the reaction.